Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of Charlotte Mecklenburg History with Dan Morrill. Today is Sunday, December 27th, 2020, and I am Dan's daughter, Mary Dana, joining Dan through Zoom today for our last podcast of the year. Hey, Dad, good to see you.
Good to see everybody. Happy New Year.
That's right. Thanks for being here. And today, my dad is going to be talking about Preserve Mecklenburg's year in review, all projects that they've been working on this year. I think it's pretty exciting, all that's been going on, and glad to share that with people. So, Dad, I'll let you take it away.
Well, this is the December 2020 monthly bulletin of Preserve Mecklenburg. And all supporters of Preserve Mecklenburg automatically get a copy of this, which I send out by email. Did you get your copy,
I
Mary?
did get my copy.
Do you enjoy getting a monthly bulletin about what we're doing?
I do, and I noticed you put those berries on this month's.
I know. I mean, it's not often that I do artistic flair,
I
but
know,
I
that's
figured
true.
that since we are in the holiday season, that I should try to put some holly berries on the monthly bulletin. So I
Be a
did it,
little festive this month,
and it's
right?
it has been an incredibly challenging year, as you know, for everybody with this COVID.
Absolutely.
And it's just been a very, very, very difficult year, and we all must have hope for a better year in the future. But it's been a terrific year for Preserve Mecklenburg. You know, what started in April of 2019 was the idea that, with great respect for the public agencies that deal with preservation, namely the Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission, the Charlotte Historic District Commission, that really what we need in Preserve Mecklenburg is a real estate active, business savvy, owner cooperative, private preservation agency. And that was our vision. And I tell you, we have really demonstrated by what we've been able to do, with the help and cooperation of a lot of other different people and agencies, that our expectation was accurate. So really what I want to do today is to sort of wrap up the year of Preserve Mecklenburg and make you aware, make the community aware of just what remarkable things we've been able to achieve and why they're significant. Now, the only property that we purchased outright was the Patterson grocery store. I've mentioned before that in the days of racial segregation, one of the areas that was open for Black-owned business operations were grocery stores. There were more than 40 grocery stores, neighborhood grocery stores, that were owned and operated by African Americans in Charlotte in the 1920s and 1930s. None of those buildings are still open as far as operating grocery stores. Most of the buildings are actually gone. They've been demolished. But there's one that remains, built by James Patterson, opened in 1922 on Booker Avenue in Washington Heights. Last spring, this building was put on the market. All the offers that were coming in were from people whose intent was to demolish the building. They felt that the building was in the way and they just need to get rid of it. And you can see at that time also the grass was overgrown and the building was somewhat forlorn. Preserve Mecklenburg was able to negotiate with the owner an outright purchase of the property. I have a little coffee here. Maybe I'll pick it up and sip a little bit.
Feel free to do that. It's really cold today.
And to the credit of the owner, a white man, graduate of the University of North Carolina, he really did work with us because he sold it to us essentially for what he bought it for. He had higher offers, but he wanted it to sell it to somebody that would indeed keep the building. We were able to buy it. And because we were a private nonprofit, it didn't have to be a designated historic landmark. It did not have to be in a local historic district. All it had to do was be a building that we felt had historical and cultural importance. And I think there's a good chance that this will become an historic landmark. We were able to close within 30 days. That was very important to the owner. We bought it, cut the grass, spiffed up the building, put our sign in front, got a realtor. And on the 22nd of this month, we achieved a tremendous victory. We made a little money. That wasn't our primary purpose. We sold the building subject to a preservation easement to a group called the Ellis Legacy Group, which is operated by African Americans who are dedicated to the preservation of African American culture and historic places. The building is going to be not only sold, but subject to an easement that's going to assure its preservation in perpetuity. And therefore, for future generations, as long as the society we have exists, this building is going to be there. What a terrific preservation victory. It never would have happened without the involvement of Preserve Mecklenburg. It never would have happened. And by the way, one of the things, if you get your monthly building and if, your monthly bulletin, and all supporters automatically get one, you not only get the description in the bulletin, but you also get access to an essay that describes the history of the store in much more detail and that places it within the context of the neighborhood. And so, if you will, this bulletin is more than just a newsletter. It's really a gateway to learning about local history, including learning about African American history. And yes, you can see that I wrote the essay, as I do for all these projects for Preserve Mecklenburg. And you can see the date, June 19th, 2020, when it was finished. So that is a terrific accomplishment. And I want to thank all the people who have stood behind us. And, you know, it might become a grocery store again. It might become a coffee house. But the most important thing is it is going to be saved. What do you think, Mary Dana?
I think that's really exciting news. I'm very happy for that. Who did those artist renderings about what the?
You know, it's a woman out of Northern Virginia, and her name is Corrine Ward, and she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, she really did. I'm excited
And
to
you know,
see
it's
what
interesting
happens.
about a graphic artist like that. You know, a camera can only take what actually exists, but you can get somebody like a Corinne Ward can give you an image of what it could be, put
Mm-hmm.
people in there and illustrate it, but it's really a wonderful thing. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. You know, history's great. Historic preservation is great because by preserving these buildings, we put those beads on the necklace to make historic interpretation become truly real. So thank you so much. Another great victory. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Another great victory. The Frank McNitch House, which is on Sharon Lane, built in mid 1920s. The home of Frank McNitch and his wife Hulda. He had been the mayor of Charlotte during the Spanish influenza epidemic. He was a major figure in both the Hoover and Franklin Roosevelt administrations.
He was on
He
the
was a
cover of
bit,
Time
bit
magazine.
he
I
was on the
remember that.
cover of Time magazine.
Mm-hmm.
He was a nationally important figure. He was a mayor during the Spanish influenza epidemic. He was the leader of the Prohibition movement in North Carolina. He was a huge figure. This house was put on the market in 2018 with no guarantee that it was going to be preserved. Again, working cooperatively with the owner, Preserve Mecklenburg was able to find a buyer, the Terra Nova Group out of Greenville, South Carolina, that is buying the property and is making it, if you will, part of the infill development that will bring economic viability to the whole area. And here you can see this cul-de-sac. You're going to be able to drive in. You're going to be able to look and see the historic house. There'll be a full corridor straight up to it. And we're going to be working with the developer to make sure that the history of this site is interpreted so that people will understand just how important the Frank McNitch House is. And again, as you can see, there is a hyperlink that will take you to an extensive essay on the house, which again I wrote and which sort of provides the foundation. So here it's going to be preserved, preservation easement. It's going to be placed on it. It's not going to be lost. It's going to be there for future generations. So Mary Dana, it could well have been 2 years ago. Somebody could have bought that thing, give the Landmarks Commission a year's notice and move forward and tear it down. It's not going to happen. It's going to be preserved.
That's great.
Well, again, it's only because we're a private nonprofit that can move quickly, deftly, nimbly, and fast. And that is only possible with the support of people in the community. Now, the Elizabeth Lawrence Garden, we've talked a lot about that. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I did again, an extensive essay on the Elizabeth Lawrence Garden. And, you know, again, this just sets forth the whole issue that we're facing. I gave you, these are extensive essays. Elizabeth Lawrence had a garden in Raleigh before she came to Charlotte in 1948. And she came here, and here's the issue. This house here, the one that I'm in on, that was Elizabeth Lawrence's sister's house. That property is now for sale. This house over here This is the house that Elizabeth Lawrence had, this bungalow right here. Now, with this house, this property being sold, there is the possibility that a large house could be built on the site that would potentially negatively impact the Elizabeth Lawrence garden. Now, Preserve Mecklenburg is working with the board of the Winghaven Foundation to see if a way can be found to mitigate that, to lessen that, to ease that, which would essentially involve developing a house that would be situated differently on the site and that would enhance the garden rather than detract from it. And again, it's Preserve Mecklenburg that's doing all this. We're the ones that are involved. We're the ones. And the Elizabeth Lawrence was truly an inspirational gardener. She wrote books that absolutely transformed the whole idea and concept of gardening. And it's still a classic, and it's still in print. So we are very excited to be involved with that. Now, the Nolenshaw House, we've covered this on many occasions. This house was scheduled to be demolished in December of 2020.
Oh, right
It was
now.
actually, yeah, it was going to be scheduled. It was scheduled to be demolished, and we were able. Well, I'm sorry, 2019,
No,
December
a
2019
year
would have
ago.
been demolished a year ago, and we were able to. They got a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Landmarks Commission to destroy the house. It was built in 1928. Colonial revival, going to be demolished. We were able to work with the owner to get a 6-month option to purchase. Now, an option to purchase is an extremely cost-effective way to gain control of a property for a given period of time. We got the option to purchase. We assigned our option to the Terra Nova Group, who bought it, and they, as the case with the McNinch House, they are going to make this part of a larger residential development, and it's going to be subject to the same kind of preservation easement that we saw with the McNinch House or we saw with the grocery store. So again, look, if you believe that history is important, if you believe it is important to consider the past, then the preservation of these historic places is vital because they are artifacts that interpret and represent the past. So again, this building would have been dust. It would have been dust, believe me. Gosh, one of the great properties in Mecklenburg is on Eastfield Road. It's right on the boundary between Charlotte and Huntersville. The son of the most recent owners of this property had this house on the market for over 2 years.
Oh,
He
wow.
could not find anybody who would preserve the house. It had over 20 acres of land. The property taxes would have been so high. And most people, again, looked upon this house and an earlier log house that's on the property as being an impediment to development. Well, guess what? We were able to find a buyer, again, this time a local developer and a local property owner, to buy the property, to accept preservation easements, and we're going to see something develop there that is very, very special. Rezoning is scheduled for next month, but we have every reason to believe it's going to work. Now, we showed this before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here are the historic houses right here. See them?
Mm-hmm.
They're the historic houses. Now, what's going to happen is here's Eastfield Road. A large portion of the property here is going to be left undeveloped. Nothing's going to be put here. There's going to be intense development around, but here's the view coming up the road. The vista to the house, and the open space is going to be preserved. Now, again, that's the kind of pragmatic compromise that Preserve Mecklenburg works out with property owners. Now, what do you think? Do you think that's in many ways, there's a real similarity between what you saw at McNitch and what you're seeing here
Mm-hmm.
with Eastfield?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
I think
say.
I've asked you before, but I'll ask you again. Man, if you put your foot in the sand and said no, we're not going to permit any changes whatsoever, you know what's going to happen to the historic buildings?
Oh, they'll get torn down.
They'll get torn
I've seen it
down.
happen many times over the decades of being your daughter.
So the issue is this a reasonable thing to do? Well, I think it is. How am I doing time wise, by the way?
Oh, you've been talking about 22 minutes.
Okay.
You're doing well.
Well, now the Mays House, we've had some moments about this one before.
It's a great
It,
house.
it's just an unbelievable house, and it's been very endangered. Now
Mm.
there is some very exciting news that's going to happen after the first of the year. We're very hopeful that really a way is going to be found to save this absolutely magnificent structure, and it definitely deserves to be saved. No question about that. This is shingle style, which is very typical American style. There's exquisite interior in this house. This unbelievable staircase, windows.
High Victorian, right? Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
See some of the details in the interior.
Yeah, I see that.
It's just really, it's an incredible place. So again, the involvement of Preserve Mecklenburg was essential in bringing about what's going to be a very exciting preservation solution that we can talk about next month.
I was gonna say you can tell us more about that next month. All right. So
No doubt about it.
okay,
No doubt about it. Now, as far as the Penance office building, we've talked about this before. And, we talked about the fact that Jack Pentis was a very well-known graphic artist. We talked about the fact that he was someone who really, if you will, sort of ran the graphic and commercial arts dimensions of Charlotte. He was also an outspoken issue on things like traffic
environmentalism.
control, environmental, cleaning air, cleaning water, and all the rest. And he certainly demonstrated that in this building that he had built in 1980, designed by Murray Wisnett, a prominent local architect. And the thing that's so striking about this building is that it is so environmentally sensitive. It doesn't dominate the site. It's actually quite regressive. It also has a gravel parking lot, not impervious pavement. It retains a tremendous number of trees. And we are trying to work with the owner, have been negotiating for some time, and we hope we're going to be successful in doing that, of getting a option to purchase, which is one of the principal things that we do with properties. And it's really, really unbelievable. But anyway, we're really excited about that. Now, the good old Griffin, man, now you've always had a love for the Griffin.
I
Do you
do.
remember
I
where
do
this
love a Griffin.
Griffin came from?
It was from the old city hall.
Absolutely. Some of you might remember that this Griffin was really a very special element of the community, and
Right, and
it
that
did come from the
just
old city
recently,
hall.
and we just
You're
recently
you're
found proof of
absolutely right.
that thanks to the Tease brothers. They're the ones
Yeah,
who
now
figured
here's
it
a little
out.
essay on it, and it came from Charlotte City Hall, which was built in 1890, 1891. These griffins were around the front door. Here's a 1916 picture of uptown Charlotte looking toward the southeast. And you can see what a dominant element in the landscape the tower of the city hall was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a major figure in the city. So this was a very special building for Charlotte. And of course, we're very fortunate that the fact that a man named Oscar J. Tease in 1925 rescued the Griffins, and one of them was incorporated into this house. In fact, you can see it outlined right there.
Right, the one that was on the left side of the doorway.
What's happened? Here's what's happened. And it shows how important it is just to have someone who is always very attentive to what is going on. Because we were contacted by the people who sold this property to the Lutgert Corporation out of Naples, Florida. Because they knew that we had an interest in making sure that the Griffin would be preserved. And by the way, there is another Griffin that does exist, but this one is embedded directly in the house. The mate to this one is in a memorial, which is over in Independence Park.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the preservation solution might be that we use some of the brownstone from this house, if it is demolished, and build some sort of a memorial that will reunite the Griffins again in Independence Park. But we're going to be very much on top of this. So, Mary Dana, it has been an incredible year for Preserve Mecklenburg. And if you look here at the bottom of the
Dad,
element here
so funny.
of the bulletin, you can make a donation either online or directly by mail. And it's what allows Preserve Mecklenburg to continue to do its good work. So I want to thank everybody.
And if you're just listening to us and not watching, that you go to preservemec.org/donate to make your donation, or you can send a check to Preserve Mecklenburg, and you can mail it to Preserve Mecklenburg, 1031 South Caldwell Street, Suite 200, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28203.
Well, it's been a great year, and I hope Preserve Mecklenburg we'll really be looking to do more projects next year. And if you have ideas, first of all, if any of you want to have us help you market your property, you can get in touch with us. And secondly, if you know some properties that are endangered that need some special help, you can let us know. We want to have feedback from the community because, as I've said, one of the principal reasons for doing these podcasts is to make you aware of Preserve Mecklenburg. So,
And you can
been
email
wonderful
my
being with you.
dad. You can email my dad at Dan Morrill, the number 2, at gmail.org. No, com. What is it, Dad? What's your email address? I don't even know.
It is danmorrill2 at gmail.org.
Okay. So
Wait a minute. Now I'm getting confused. .com.
.com.
danmorrill2 at gmail.com.
See, I know I couldn't remember either.
Right
Dan
there.
Morrill,
See?
the number 2 at gmail.com.
It's right there. And you can also call me at my telephone number, which is at the bottom of the bulletin as well.
But don't send you a text message because you never answer text messages.
What do you mean I never answer text?
That's right.
Sometimes I do.
No, I mean, about a week later. So,
well,
anyway.
what do you do? Listen for that little ding ding?
So, but yeah, well, so thanks, Dad, for all the information today. It was great seeing you. And I know that you're going to have a Preserve Mecklenburg Zoom meeting next month.
I
right,
will, and I'll
members.
that's for our supporters, and I'll be getting in touch with our supporters about that.
And I'll plan to be there too. So look forward to seeing everyone. We hope you all have a wonderful new year, and we hope 2021 will be a better year. Let's hope.
Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. I just wish you the best, always.
That's right. All right, well, take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.